Hi, Janice. It's a pleasure to have you here in Madrid. Thank you so much for coming once again to Spain. And how did you feel coming back to Spain?
Oh, well, thank you, Anna. It's wonderful to be back here. I always look forward to coming to Spain. And this time it's really wonderful weather,
Yes.
which has made it even more special. And the book fair, of course. So this one feels, of all my visits, it feels the most special.
Yes. We are having you signing books for this book fair, and we're having you here because you're promoting your two new books in Spanish, which is the Killer Question and A Box Full of Murders. We also have the rest of your books here. And can you please, maybe introduce a little bit of each single book for people who don't know you yet?
Each one? Wow, now that's going to be a test of my memory, but here goes.
Like a short description of each one.
Short description. Well, book number one is The Appeal there.
Yes.
That's a murder mystery told in the form of emails between members of a drama group. And it kind of broke the mould when it was released in 2022. And it still remains one of my most favourite books that I've written.
Yeah.
So that's The Appeal. Next is The Twyford Code.
Yeah.
That was my second book. And that's about a former prisoner who goes on a mission, really, to find out what happened to his English teacher when he was 14. She disappeared after a school trip. And he's convinced there was more to it than he ever heard about at the time. So he goes on that mission. And that's, I have a very soft spot for the Twyford Code because I wrote it during lockdown.
Oh, yeah.
And that remains quite special.
Yeah.
Book number 3, The Alperton Angels, The Mysterious Case of the Alperton Angels. That's about two true crime authors, two journalists who are at loggerheads trying to find a particular character who was a baby 18 years ago when they were part of a crime that took place, a cult that called itself the Alperton Angels. Yeah. And this child was deemed to be the Antichrist, and the cult almost killed them but didn't. And now they're 18 and they can be interviewed. So both of these journalists are at loggerheads about that. All I can say about that, because there's a lot of twists that happen. So next would be The Examiner. That was last year's book. And that's a murder mystery set in a university art department. I like to think of it as a hellish journey through the worst university course you could ever find yourself on. It's 6 students and their tutor, and nobody gets on. Everyone has an agenda, and it's bedlam from the moment we start to the moment of the murder. And again, that's all I can say about that one.
Yeah.
And right up to date, the Killer Question is a murder mystery set in the world of pub quizzing, which is a particularly English phenomenon of local country pubs who run quizzes to keep their numbers up on low nights. But these quizzes become life and death to many people. And in fact, in the Killer Question, they're all about death because there's a murder connected to them. Yeah. That's a great favourite of mine, because I think it's probably one of my funniest books. Yeah. And it was great fun to write. Now, meanwhile, Box Full of Murders is my first murder mystery for middle grade readers. That's readers aged about 8 to 12. And although I wasn't planning on writing for children, the fact that I'd heard that so many children enjoyed my books for the format they were written in, I was enticed really to try it out for children, to see how it would work. Perhaps for readers who are less keen on reading and for whom a book full of text, full of narrative, would be off-putting. So this is a book of found footage. It's short email exchanges. It's 2 characters looking into a case from the past. So we've got a lot of communications from the past, letters, various forms and documents people have filled in. So yeah, that was a huge fun to write as well. So that's a box full of murders.
I mean, you have done a great job with all of them. And something that we were just talking about is the fact that in your books you tend to use emails like WhatsApp messages or questions about people or diaries even. Yeah. How did you come up with that twist in writing crime novels and making it more bearable for people in the modern age?
Well, it actually happened quite by accident, because in the 10 years leading up to starting writing my first novel, I was a scriptwriter for screen and sometimes also for the stage. So I was used to delivering character and delivering story purely through dialogue. And when you think about these novels, WhatsApps, letters, diaries, texts, all of these communications that we send now, they're just letters, they're epistolary novels. So I've really brought that into the 21st century. And it kind of feels really amazing to think that the format of novels that first started in the Victorian era are now brought up to date. But again, it happened entirely by accident. It felt quite natural after that career writing scripts.
Yeah, and one thing that your readers love the most about your books is your twists and how you're able to like trick their minds and make them, suspect everyone. And I wonder, like for each book, maybe it has been different for each story. But did you come up with the villain first, or it doesn't come while you're writing the story?
It comes while I'm writing, always, always. I start off with characters, and I build up from the characters in their little world. Sometimes I start off with the world and its characters, and then I follow those characters as they write to each other. And through that, a story emerges, and through the story, the twist emerges.
Yeah.
And it does vary from novel to novel. For the examiner, I did start off with the place first, the university course. I wanted to do that first.
Yeah.
But with the killer question, although I knew I wanted to do something to do with pub quizzing, I didn't know quite the angle. And so I started off writing a leaflet that detailed all the local pubs of an area and the quizzes that they had.
Yeah.
And that got me straight into the story. Once I knew those landlords and the key two landlords that we follow, Sue and Mal, and their particular quiz, that's where that whole story came from, just writing out that leaflet.
Yeah.
So each book is kind of triggered by different things, but they're always the characters first and foremost.
Yeah. And another thing that I wonder is, how is your writing routine and how has it changed through the years?
Yeah, it hasn't changed very much.
Okay.
I'm very regimented in my writing. I'm always a morning writer. Okay. I get up early, say 5:40. I'm writing by 7:30. And I've usually written most of what I've written by midday. And after midday, I will not write so much. I'll do other things that I have to do, all the accumulative things that you do when you're a writer.
Yeah.
Other than writing.
Yeah, maybe
which can be quite a lot.
researching.
Researching, yeah. Planning next stories.
Yeah.
Doing interviews like this. So everything. But my writing is kind of sacred that time in the morning. And unlike some writers can write any time of day. If I have to miss that morning writing, say I've got an early appointment or something, I won't go and write later in the day. I've missed the writing opportunity of that day. So I'm really focused on that morning routine, and nothing will upset me from it unless I have to.
Yeah. And after so many years of writing like adult books, crime novels for adult books, why did you decide to do a book for middle grade?
Well, I wasn't planning on it. It happened quite by accident. I was at a book event. I think it was for either the Appeal or the Twyford Code.
Yeah.
And I was up in the north of England, and a lady spoke to me after the event, and she said that her 10-year-old son had, and he was a boy who hated reading. He didn't like books at all. It wasn't for him. But he got hold of her copy of the Appeal, and he'd been attracted to it thanks to its speech bubbles and short emails and texts that had really attracted his eye. And he'd read it from cover to cover, and she said that had never happened before. He'd engaged with characters, he'd followed a story, everything that she'd really wanted him to do because she loved reading.
Yeah.
And so she was really thrilled that had happened, and she wondered if I'd ever thought about writing for children.
Yeah.
Because she said kids like him who weren't keen readers would really pick up on this format.
Yes.
And although I hadn't in my life thought that I'd ever be a children's writer, that really got me thinking. And I thought, that how amazing would that be to find children who weren't keen readers and to make readers out of them. That would be so wonderful. And so I gave it a go, and I came up with the idea of A Box Full of Murders, which is two modern-day siblings, Luke and Ava, who discover a mysterious box in their father's attic, and they open it to find that it's top-secret documents about a murder that happened at a scout camp in 1983.
Yes.
So this particular story really sort of resonated with me, and I thought this could resonate with children too, and that's how I came up with that. It's quite a sort of organic process, but it was all triggered by that lady who spoke to me after the event.
And how was it different to write like a children's book rather than an adult book? Like,
different.
What do you think was the most complicated, or what was it easier rather than?
No, not at first. It's very similar in many ways. The language, of course, is different, and you have to be sort of age appropriate when talking about things like murder. But children love solving puzzles. They love gory things. They love horror. And if you put all these things together in a children's book, you can really reach your reader. But for me, who was really steeped in the world of adult writing, I found it quite tricky to find a voice for children to get across all that I wanted. And that book took a good few rewrites before it was ready. Luckily, I have found that voice now, because I'm in the middle of my 4th book for children in the UK. And it's a whole lot of fun. But in the beginning, it was tricky to change my tone and to get I think it was getting the playfulness in, which I think my adult novels have a certain amount of playfulness too.
Yeah,
but for children, you can really go for it on the playful scale. You can really look at things from a different way because they're seeing everything for the first time. Yeah. And if you read something for them, you also see things from their point of view for the first time again, which was wonderful.
And also, I wonder, like, who of all of the books, like, which of the characters is the one that do you feel maybe like more identified with, or who was like the most complicated one to write?
I think the one I identify with most would possibly be Izzy in The Appeal. She comes really from either somebody who I once was, or somebody who I fear I am, or sometimes someone who I could be at times. So yeah, Izzy, I have a big connection between me and her. And there's other characters as well. There's Jem in The Examiner. She's a great character. Has some qualities similar to Izzy, but she has one thing that Izzy doesn't have, and that's bags of confidence. She's a young woman who knows what she wants and is out there getting it. And I love Jem for that. And then there's Steve in The Twyford Code, the lead character of that, he arrived, his voice in my head, it sort of popped in there, unannounced and absolutely whole. I didn't have to build his character up at all. He was there. So he was very strange. He was there from the moment I started the book, and he was such a strong character. So there's some connection between me and Steve, and even I don't really know what that is. Yeah.
And I also wonder, like, in a box full of murders, they tend to like compare you with, or the book, with Enid Blyton's books. And do you feel like that's the case?
Oh my goodness, I love Enid Blyton, and she was such an influence on my early love of reading, my love of writing, and I like to think she's an influence on my style now, because she had this wonderful flowing narrative that just glued your eyes to the page. And people criticise her stories now, and often with just cause, but there's no denying that she was an amazing writer. She could really keep your attention. She was hypnotic. And if people think that I'm like that, then that's wonderful, and I love that comparison.
And also, they also call you like the Agatha Christie in like our current days, we can say. And were you a big fan of Agatha Christie's work before you started like writing crime novels?
I certainly was, but I hadn't so much come to her books as I had learned her stories through film and TV. I was a huge fan of those, but her books I'd not read much of until I became a crime author, and people were making the comparison, and I've been steadily working my way through since then. And it's amazing that people are comparing me to her as well, because she was really phenomenal. I mean, she wrote for so many years, her whole life, and she reinvented the crime novel time and again over that time, and she developed and she changed. You can't put a pin. She didn't put a pin wrong in any of her books. And if she experimented with things, didn't always get it right, but it was all part of the learning process. For her, you can see how she then developed further from that. And to watch an author hone their skill over so many years through their books is a great privilege. And not so many authors get to write that many books, because we don't all start young enough, effectively. So when you do have an author like that, it's a great privilege to be able to read all of their work and to read their germination on the page.
And how did your life change when you became an author, like so late in life? Like people must be thinking like, oh, like I'm 40 and 50, like I cannot start anything new because I'm too old.
No.
But what can you tell them, like how did your life change from?
Well, the appeal was published when I was 52. And I would say it's never too late. It's been, 5 years? Yeah, 5 years since then. And my life has changed completely. Not least because I've written so many more books.
Yeah.
Because I've now got a voice and a platform, and people are reading my work. All the time I was a screenwriter, I barely had anything made at all. I had some plays put on, had a film made, which I co-wrote with its director. But actually my ideas, my writing, I hadn't been able to get any of that off the ground. And suddenly, at the age of 52, I was away and I was up and running. People were appreciating what I was doing, and that changed my whole life. It's made when I look back on my entire life, it's really made it. This is where I've been working towards my entire life. So if you're in your 40s or 50s or 60s and thinking of taking up writing or writing that book you've always wanted to write, just go for it, just write. And don't worry about being brilliant to begin with. Just have the confidence and have fun and experiment.
Yeah, and another question I have is when you said that you plan the villain, like sometimes when you're writing, but do you have like a clear ending in your head? Or also, like it just comes, like
it just comes.
Do you just have a an idea, like a draft idea, and then you just go with the flow?
I go with the flow. I mean, I generally know the world. I'm trying to think if any of them did I know the twist at the end. No, I don't think I did. With the Twyford Code, I literally didn't know what the Twyford Code was going to be, and when it came to the point of the book where it was revealed, I got to the actual sentence, the Twyford Code is really, and I had no idea what it really was. So as I was writing it, that cursor was blinking over the blank space, and the rest of the book was blank. And I stopped and thought, now I am going to have to work out what the Twyford Code is. Yeah. Which, of course, entailed going back over that first draft and rewriting it to fit what I eventually came up with, what the Twyford Code was. So it's a lot of fun to do it that way.
Yeah, and I also wonder, where do you get your inspiration from? Like, are you walking, like now we are in the Retiro Park, like, are you walking in a park, like somewhere, and you get the ideas, or maybe you just research for specific ideas?
I'm not a big researcher. I will research things when I've had the idea, but I will get the idea first. And I often do a lot of research after I've done my first draft, because that's when I know what it's about. But my inspiration, it's a kind of different with all of them. With the appeal, I've done amateur drama my whole life, so that was something I really knew about. Twyford Code, again, Steve led me through that, the character. There's not much in it that I do know about, but it is inspired by Enid Blyton.
Yes.
And that I did know. So for some, that had also had quite a strong core in my own experience. The Alberton Angels, I used to be a journalist, and the characters there allowed me to revisit that career, really, and kind of enjoy it. And without actually working in it, I could create these characters that were working in it themselves. So, and that was quite cathartic for me, the Alberton Angels. The Examiner, I'd done an MA. That was where the inspiration came for that. I loved my MA and everybody got on really well. But I had this fantasy in my head. What if these 6 or 7 people were loggerheads from the word go? This would be the most awful course to do if that was the case. And so that's where that idea came from. And I'm a big pub quizzer. I belong to a pub quiz team, and we take it very seriously. We're like the teams in there that really don't like the new team that's arrived and is winning all the quizzes. So, yeah, that also came from experience. Box Full of Murders. I was a brownie when I was young. I love the nature and the outdoors, but otherwise that's one that's been inspired more by children that I hear talking, that I know. Yes, that's less to do with my own experience. So really, they vary. Each one has a different germination, has a different route to publication. But that's possibly why each one is very different.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing I can guarantee. If you read my books, every single book is different.
Yeah.
And, you'll never be reading the same one again with me.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of people think that it's a series because of how, similar the style of the design of the covers is. And also, which one would you recommend people to start with?
Oh, goodness. It depends. I mean, you can't really do worse than starting with the most recent.
Okay.
And if you like it,
go backwards.
Start with the beginning.
Start with the spiel.
You could go backwards. I always think that's an interesting way to read an author, is to go backwards rather than forwards.
Yeah.
If you go backwards, you can almost see where the last one came from. So that is good. So in that case, it would be the Killer Question, the Examiner, the Alperton Angels, Twyford Code and the Appeal, and of course that's the first one in the middle grade.
Yes.
So
And do you consider that the label cozy crime is a good way to describe your books, and why do you think you have been considered the queen of cozy crime?
Well, I'm not offended by it. I don't 100% agree that my books are particularly cozy, but it does depend what you mean by cozy. That it's quite a wide description, because I never shy away from the terrible things that I'm writing about ever, even though there's plenty of humour in each one. And the humour comes from different places in each book. And I never like to pass up the opportunity to make something funny. But as for cosy, I think there are plenty of books that are cozier. And if you're reading these and not expecting to find gory murder, you will be disappointed because there is plenty of gore and reality in it, and the sort of emotional reality, which you sometimes don't get in cozy crime. So I don't mind people reading them superficially and not reading that into them, which is great. I'm quite happy for people to experience these books however they want to experience them. But I would say I'm not entirely cozy. I'm kind of semi-cozy.
Semi-cozy. Yeah. And what authors do you think are your inspiration besides Agatha Christie? Maybe that you used to read it when you were younger, but which other, or Inés Belaito, but which other authors do you think might have inspired you while you have been writing these books?
Yeah, plenty of them. I love the Victorian novelists. I specialised in them when I did my English degree. So I love the Brontes, Dickens, Thomas Hardy in particular. So I love the proper novels, the real pot-boiling novels that you get in the Victorian era. And, of course, Anne Bronte, Tenant of Wildfell Hall, epistolary novel, Frankenstein and Dracula, both epistolary novels, thinking of those a lot. I also, strangely enough, just as I was writing The Appeal, I had in my mind Emma Donoghue's The Room.
The Room, yeah.
Not because it has really anything at all to do with any of my books, but that was a book that was written from the point of view of a 5-year-old. It was a book for adults.
Yeah.
And as I was writing The Appeal, I was wondering, will readers want to hear from characters who are writing and they're not writers, so they're not necessarily articulate, they don't necessarily express themselves very well. Will a reader want to read these? And then I remembered the Room by Emma Donoghue, and I thought that's written from a 5-year-old's point of view, and it just is magical. So that was in my mind a lot for that particular reason. I have so many inspirations. I mean, Don Quixote is the root. I've described as the root of all storytelling, and that's one of my most favourite books of all time. It's just incredible.
And talking about Spanish and Spanish authors, and why do you think that? I think your books are pretty British in a way.
Yeah, they are.
And what do you think? Why do you think that it has been translated to so many languages, and they appeal to so many people in different countries, like in Spain?
Yeah, it's unusual. I don't know for sure. I imagine because although they are very British, so readers can escape to another place that feels quite familiar, they're also quite universal in their emotions. I think if you took the core story, the core characters out of Britain, you could probably put them anywhere in the world and you'd get the same sort of dynamics, the same relationships, the same communities that you have here would be all over, and that's universal. So I like to think that that's the reason.
Okay, yeah. Well, we will be finishing the interview now, but my last question will be if you could only choose one of your books, your children, which one it would be.
One, just one.
Yes,
No.
that's the hardest question.
It's the hardest question ever. I'm going to spend 40 minutes trying to decide which one. Oh. Well, if I'm only going to save one, it's got to be a box full of murders, because it's the youngest.
Yeah.
So I'll save the youngest one.
The baby.
Yeah, the baby. Sorry, all the others.
Yeah. They will be fine.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Janice. It was a pleasure to have you here in Madrid once again. And we are sure that all of the readers, maybe the ones that didn't know your work before, and also the ones that love your work and they have 2 new releases, I'm sure they will truly enjoy them.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much, Anna. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Thank you so much.